Hey guys, welcome back. I'm here with Tom. We're at CSI headquarters, and I know how much you guys love demos, especially over dramatic demos. And we have one for you today. What I challenged Tom to do was, Tom, I want to push Ceram-X to the limit. So Ceram-X, one of the key points about Ceram-X, not only is it a single product polish, but it's a time. Time really is money. So if you believe or even want to believe that time really is money, well, we've got a demonstration for you that is over the top. So with that said, I'm going to now just cut this and we're going to get right into the chase. And if you are interested and you find this very compelling, which I don't know how you could not, then stay tuned, because we're going to come back in after the demo and we're going to talk, and I'm actually going to bring a third individual on camera with us, and we're going to talk more and expand more. So with that said, let's get started.
So this is the hood we used at the TAMCO booth last year. Thank you, Tammy, for allowing us to be in there. We've got a bunch of pinstriping on there that one of the artists kind of went crazy on here. We're going to take off this pinstriping with 600 grit that's been dried on there for a year, because this hood has to be prepped and re-readied for SEMA now in the next week or so. So 600 grit sandpaper, you know, like we talked about. Use water.
Now, I'm going to be talking while you're working,
Sure,
Tom,
sure.
because there's going to be people that be like, wow, how come he's not using a block? Well, that's a whole nother series of videos which comes into sanding techniques based on the car you're working on.
Yeah, we're just
curvature
hacking up the hood. Right
yeah,
now.
we're just blazing through this just to introduce some very aggressive sanding marks, and in this moment simultaneously removing the pinstriping on it so that we have a nice black, because it's a black paint job, non-metallic, which is as hard as it gets. FYI, if you're a beginner, even a pearl or a metallic, you can call it whatever you want, black paint is still easier to deal with than just a solid non-metallic black paint. Black paint, I don't know if anyone would have a counter opinion that it is the hardest to get right.
Yep.
So this is a non-metallic black paint. You're removing the pinstriping so that we got a nice fresh 600 grit scratch pattern. And since you're still working, I'm going to keep talking. So you talk about a uniform scratch pattern. So what you're doing is you're creating the depth of all those scratches uniformly to the level of 600 grit.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes. And
okay.
You notice I only went in one direction. That way, when we buff it, we can tell where the 600 grit scratches are. I hate it when somebody's, oh my gosh, going in a circular motion with sandpaper, because how are you going to be able to see that scratch pattern compared to what the buffer's putting in?
Okay, you know, it's ironic. I just shot this video where I'm debunking that myth, because all these YouTube detailers talk about never do anything in a circular pattern, because circular scratches are harder to remove than vertical or horizontal.
Yeah.
Now, is there any truth to that?
No. No.
Because what I explain is that it has nothing to do with the pattern. It has everything to do with the depth of the scratch or the hardness of the clear coat, which would be the two biggest determinants. But you're just doing it
so I can see it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're doing it so you can actually see a contrast between the scratch pattern versus the buffing marks that we'll be introducing in the process of going to a swirl-free finish.
I don't know how many minutes that was, but you know, that's live. We're making a mess here.
What I can tell you is just a little over 3 minutes.
Oh, good. So 3 minutes to sand off year-old pinstriping. That was
Which I felt that pinstripe, there was a ridge to it, meaning it's not thin paint. He definitely went in very aggressively, applied plenty of pinstripe paint.
So this is the Ceram-X.
Okay, let me, I'm going to just pull up real quickly. Just look at that scratch. I mean, that is definitely scratched up. In fact, okay, so I'm gonna just zoom in real quick like. So there's our heavy-duty scratch pattern. Okay, and Haley, you can keep this all, including my talking, because it doesn't matter. I want to just make this as candid as possible for my audience, because this is the results. This is me literally challenging Tom. Like, I dare you, Tom. I double dog dare you
right.
to remove 600 grit sanding marks.
So now, right in the middle of that, 600 grit mess that we've got in the center of this hood on an aluminum hood. This is an aluminum hood.
Oh, it is. I did not know that.
This is an aluminum hood. The danger with aluminum is it'll start to pop if you get it too hot.
Okay, define pop.
It expands and contracts.
Right. So
it'll actually warp. That's okay. An aluminum hood will always go back to what it was. So I'm going to hold this rack down, because that is going to be, I'm going to put a lot of pressure on here. I'm going to take out 600 grit as fast as I can. We've got the Milwaukee buffer, got the big battery on there, the 9.0.
Thank you, Milwaukee.
Thank you, Milwaukee.
You guys rock. And by the way, we love your buffer.
We love it.
And we are not getting paid to endorse Milwaukee, just FYI.
Put the product on the pad. This is our non-linting wool pad.
Non-linting.
Hold it right here. Don't move it around. I see everybody moving it. Don't do that. No need to do that. Inject it up into the pad. Now it's in the pad. Now, put some pressure. Shine comes up right away.
Yeah, wow.
But now you got to get out all the scratches. And they're really coming out. Come up on edge, it's okay. Just put the buffer right up on edge. Go to the center if you need some more product. Back off your pressure, back off your speed. This will give you a better finish. Make sure you got out all your scratches. You don't want any cornrows left in there.
Define cornrows, because my audience
like a plowed field from the air.
Because I know what cornrows look like, because I can look at a panel that's been wet sanded, and then buffed, but there's still little tiny rows, and I never had a term for it.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you get all that out.
Cornrows.
Yeah, just cornrows. Now we've got a swirl marked. I mean, there's going to be swirls here.
Oh yeah. Look at those swirls. Okay, you hold that, because I want to zoom in.
No cornrows. There's no cornrows in there. Obviously, we've got sand scratches here where I didn't buff. Sand scratches here where I didn't buff. No sand scratches here. We've got a rotational mark from the buffer. You've got,
serious swirl marks.
Yeah, serious swirl marks.
Or buffer trails, holograms.
Yep.
There's different labels that they will attach to that unwanted effect right now.
And if we were at SEMA, I'd want you to, pull out your light. This is 1,000 lumen light. So this is a really
significant.
Significant light. You want to be able to see everything. So now we got out everything we wanted with the wool pad fairly fast.
I would say I was fast.
Now
way faster than I thought, by the way. Honestly.
And I put my back.
Because I do not, in my professional world, I never have to remove 600 grit sanding marks.
No, and I am really pushing hard. I am. But the hood didn't warp. It was popping a little bit, but nothing bad. There's, hood's not damaged. This is our foam pad. This is the only foam pad we sell for finishing.
For finishing, clarify, because we also have a maroon pad.
For cutting, yep.
Yes, so this is finishing.
Yep.
You're going directly from wool to a finishing pad.
Yep.
And you are not changing the product.
Nope.
As in, that is still the Ceram-X.
Still Ceram-X. This is the Ceram-X. We just put it in a bottle, make it a little easier. A little bit right in the center. Obviously, you don't need to go that fast. Slow it down, about 1,000 RPM. Hold it as flat as you can. And you can see the gloss. It starts getting black again, where it was kind of gray.
I can see it from here. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but I can see it converting.
Everything is about converting now. Everything that we're doing.
Yeah,
we're just converting all those scratches. And you're doing it with one single product.
Now, just to clarify, when you say scratches in this moment, you're referring to the scratches that were introduced by the wool pad.
Yeah.
Because you've already moved the scratches that were introduced by the sanding paper.
Yeah,
so now you're taking out the scratches or the swirl marks, the holograms, whatever, those kinds of scratches.
Yeah, you're taking out all of the wool pad scratches. Back off your pressure, and that's important, you know, when you're buffing, is you want to back off your pressure. If you can back down your speed, this is an awesome buffer where you can go really, really slow. You want to cool down the paint and just lower the expansion that we've done, you know, when you're heating it. And we're not heating it much with this, but that is kind of one of the tricks to getting it swirl free.
And this is what I talk about in videos, is the cool thing about the Ceram-X is now you are controlling one of the very few things that you have absolute control over.
Yes.
Because you can't control how hard the ClearCoat is that you're working on. Obviously you can control the sand paper that you decide to start with or finish with. So there's certain things that you can control, but the point is there's still a lot of moving parts. So you can't control how much exact heat builds up in that process. Yeah. You can't control it in the respect that you can back off the pressure, you can back off the duration, so you can finesse the heat buildup to a degree, but you can't speak to it and say, hey hood, I want you to only heat up 15 degrees in the process of doing this. You can't do that. Yeah. So that's what's cool about the single polish, is that is, not only has it made it super, super simple with one polish, but now you have control of that, but there's still a lot of moving variables, which is what you're talking about right now, is you want it to cool down because you have heated it up, there's been some expansion.
Yep. So now we put the light on it. We just want to put the light right there in the center and just make sure that it looks as good as possible.
The only bummer is with the light that it does change the color. And when you start studying light, like lumens, like 5,000 versus 1,000, like when you go to Home Depot and buy light bulbs, it's like, do you want your room that you're lighting up to look like a surgeon's room? Or do you want to look more warm, where there's a warm kind of brownish kind of, so it does change things. But that gloss right now in this camera lens, it's like, damn, it's impressive.
Okay, now.
Okay, I'm going to zoom in.
Now, we want me to grab the light?
Yeah, in a moment. But let me just zoom in. You step a little back. There you go. Okay, so I wonder if you pulled out a yardstick. Would this be appropriate for a yardstick kind of moment, just to kind of show that it's kind of like the Corvette guy this morning. So Haley, keep this all in, and you guys that are watching this in YouTube land, sorry for all this banter back and forth, but I'm trying to keep this as like candid and live as possible. So you just finished that to what you and I have determined is swirl-free finish.
Yes.
And what I want to do is hold up the light, Tom, because this, you know, of course we got to pull out the light, because of course it's going to look swirl-free. So there we have, and you know, the light's going to, move the light around, because I want to, yeah, so you can obviously see the haze around where you did not finish. So right in the very middle, you know, and pull back, yeah, pull up, pull back. So there's still going to be like, I don't know what to call it, a starburst type of pattern around the edges, because you did not finish around the edges, the peripheral, like you did at the very center exactly. So that's where some guy out in YouTube world is going to be like, oh no, I see some starburst, I see some hologram, I see something.
Now think about what we could do with a DA from here.
Yes.
You know.
But also what I want to clarify though is that this challenge is the ability to remove 600 grit down to swirl-free finish. So you could have a guy with a highly trained eye that will come in right now and he would say, okay, I can still see something. It's like, well, guess what? I could play that game all day long. And this now comes to, like in the body shop world, you call this deliverable results.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is actually way past body shop deliverable results.
You're deliverable here. I mean,
you're way past that.
You don't have a swirl mark.
Yes.
You might have a towel mark.
Right, which is different.
Don't have a swirl mark.
Yes. So this is where a detailer could scrutinize this video and say, oh no, that they didn't meet the challenge. It's like, okay, this is where time is money. And this is where you have a conversation with your customer as to, okay, what level of results are you trying to achieve? Mm-hmm. Because in this, right now, I know if we pull this in the sun, that everyone would wet themselves. I would line up 1,000 people.
This is 1,000 lumen.
Yeah.
This is bright.
And I know that those 1,000 people would stand in awe and be like, oh my gosh, how is this possible with a single? But me as a detailer with 30 plus years of experience, I can always find ways to scrutinize anything. All I have to do is bust out the right light, come into the right angle, something. Yeah. I can throw a wrench into the gears somehow.
Yeah, especially if we're trying to charge more money to the customer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can make it better.
I can make it better.
Yeah, I can spend more of your money.
Yep. So part of the point I want to illustrate is the fact of this is you as a detailer. Let's say this is your world. Obviously, I'm challenging Tom, so I'm hoping that I'm making a very compelling case here of like, wow, Tom, that's a pretty bold statement. Let's see if you can do it. So to me, you hands down have proved it. Secondly, if I'm a detailer, I can scrutinize anyone's work and always find something if I'm trying to sell Johnny customer on using me instead of the other guy. So that's where it's like, okay, fine. Go back in 10 more times. But guess what? You can still use the same polish, the same pad, and maybe you want to reduce the speed even further. Maybe you want to reduce the pressure even more, but you want to now polish it and jewel it, because that's one of the words of the industry now is like, ooh, jeweling the paint. Fine, if you've got 2 hours to jewel that and to the point of what you consider absolute perfection, then by all means do it.
And the cool thing is you can scratch this so easy right now. This is virgin paint. I run my finger across there. I just scratched it.
You just introduced scratch mark.
I just scratched it with my finger.
So the next time your buddy or some ignorant chick, and this is not me disparaging chicks in general, but they come up to your car and say, wow, your car is dirty, and then they swipe it with their finger, and you're like, don't touch my car that way. You will scratch it. Anyhow, so that is, let me pull this back because I'm going to get back on camera with you.
Now, do you want to measure with the tape measure? Want to see if we can measure it?
Well, really, because Tom and I had this conversation. We had a customer that showed up today, and he's got a 2-year-old vet, and he wanted the orange peel. Your camera, you may actually be blocking your camera now, in case you want this, which now may be blocking my camera.
Oh, sorry.
And Haley, you can keep this all in, because I'm really going to keep this. We had to stop the camera for some, I don't know, because you guys would just be really bored out of your mind. Point is, so we had this customer showed up. He wanted to remove the orange peel. We have to have the discussion. It's like, dude, what you have to understand is that the thickness of your clear coat will largely determine how much UV protection is it. So as we sand it away and polish it away, guess what? Now we reduce that clear coat down to a point where you have to accept that this car really has to remain in the garage most of the time. So we have this whole conversation with him. But what you did is you were clarifying for him that not all orange peel is created and specifically created on his car. So we can look at a part of his fender and say, okay, that's got some bad orange peel, but hey, Johnny customer, check this out. Down here, look how much orange peel, and you did this little test with him. You're like, look at the reflection of my hand. You see how you can literally see the wrinkles in my hand right here? Because there's very little orange peel. But then when I drop it down here, suddenly you lose the ability because now the image, the reflection has become so distorted because of the orange peel that you can't make out the same detail. I would have to put my hand closer in order to see the same wrinkles on my hand that I can up here. And that's where you bring out a tape measure and you say, okay, let's see how far away.
I don't know if we can pick this up on camera.
Yeah, I don't know. For example,
so you can,
if you have the light,
it won't hurt nothing.
Yeah.
So you can read back.
How far?
You're reading back, we're definitely reading back 12 inches to here.
But just to clarify, when you say read back, but we're looking at the reflection, not the tape. You're looking at the reflection because the further away you go, the more it's going to reveal any form of distortion.
Oh, yeah.
So how far back?
So you can really see here. You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4
in the reflection.
In the reflection, and then you're getting to 12 inches. You can still see 12 inches. 13, 14, 15. It starts getting a little difficult for me to see.
And now you just got to bust out readers because you and I are old enough.
I'd say 15 inches back on a 600 grit.
Yeah. Never mind if you graduated. Let's say you started out with 1500 grit, you went to 2000, 2500, 3000, and now what company is it? 3M that has like 10,000 grit or 8,000? What is it, 8,000? Yeah. How much you want to bet they're going to come out with 10,000 grit?
Probably.
I mean, that's absurd. I don't know about you guys. In fact, I would like to hear comments about that alone. In case you haven't heard, 3M has 8,000 grit. I know if you did 3,000 grit, I could sit here with my finger and start creating a shine at 3,000 grit. So at 5,000 grit, to me, it's just like, why do I need 5,000 grit?
No, you don't.
You just used a single polish, 2 pads, and you removed 600 grit to this level. It's like, okay, simple, and the answer. It's that simple. Not to be overly redundant. Anyhow, so how about this for a challenge? How about if any guy out there, because I get all kinds of comments, people talk about the chemistry. It's like, oh, all compounds they're all the same anyways. They're all the same anyways. It's more about technique. It's about your pads, your technique. I can do this with any compound. So there's a challenge. You bring your compound down, or your polish, whatever it is your favorite is, and let's see you remove 600 grit sanding marks and do exactly what we did. And you can take as long as you want. And let's see if you can even do it for one. And then secondly, let's say they can do it. Now we're going to do a time test. Now we'll say, okay, that took you 4 hours to do it. Okay, hope you got 4 hours and I hope you're charging for it. But I know I don't. Okay, I don't want to spend 4 hours. Yep. Let's see how long it takes you to actually produce those kinds of results. So that will be my challenge. Like literally anyone, reach out. You can reach out through Sean, reach out through me. I'm pretty accessible. And
through me, my phone number's up there.
So come on down and bring the challenge. So with that said, is there anything else you want to add?
Nope.
We'll be at SEMA.
Yep. Come and see us.
Yep. I hope this is me showing you guys like, okay, I'm not just going to like, give Tom some money and then now suddenly I'm Tom's fanboy because I want you to buy the products. Like this is the stuff that I went through. It's like, okay, I'm already convinced, Tom, because I've been using your stuff. But now I want to see like, okay, I want to like take it kind of to the extreme. Can it perform at an extreme level? Because I know I'm not trying to work at this level. I'm working at a much less of an extreme. So if it can produce these kinds of results, sign me up, which is exactly what I did. Okay, leave your comments below. By all means, give it a thumbs up. And by all means, share this. I want to like bat the beehive with this one. So with that said, we will see you guys on the next video.